followed by my company name and my title. But today I'm here as Rick Lewallen, caregiver. Something that's much more personal to me and something that's a badge of honor that I wear proudly. In November of 2013, as the holidays were rolling in, we had no idea that a little lump in my husband Rick's throat that he felt was something that, he just felt as he was making sure that he didn't miss a spot when he was shaving, would turn out to be cancer. I was so sure it was nothing that when he was going to the doctor to get the results, I said, well, let me come along because I need to go to Costco after. So that was the only reason why I went with him. But we had no idea that doctor's words, I'm sorry, but the biopsy came back to be cancer, would turn our lives upside down and turn it upside down forever. But it confirmed that he had tonsil cancer. How could it be, we thought, because he had never smoked, he didn't drink, and he worked out every day. And even worse, he had his tonsils out when he was 12 years old. So then how do you get tonsil cancer? Well, it turns out that a small piece of your tonsil is left behind when you have your tonsillectomy, and so that was the source of the problem. After meeting with what seemed to be never-ending list of doctors and a battery of tests, Memorial Sloan Kettering was the hospital that we chose where he would have his treatment, and it would be 2 months of chemo and radiation to his throat. And this is where my crucial role as a caregiver came in. He met with his doctor, and they pulled me aside and they said, we have good news and bad news for you. The good news was that it was treatable cancer, but the bad news was that the treatment was going to be very painful. It would be more difficult for Rick to eat, but that I would have to be the bad guy and make sure that he had his calorie intake that he needed every day. And they said I would be the enemy for a while. And I think for those of you who have been caregivers, you realize that you're the one that has to push the patient to go through this. And that you would be the one that they would be fighting every day. And you would just have to hold to your, to the gut in you to say, I'm doing this for their own good. No amount of warning could have prepared me for what was to come. Because what started out as 4 medications turned out to be 20 plus in no time. All because the pain was so intense and needed to be addressed immediately. Yes, the pain wasn't considerate of any time of day. He would be in pain whether it was 3 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. It got to the point that I had to buy this huge whiteboard just to track what, when, and how much medication to give him. The doctors constantly reminded me that what he was on was the most potent pain medication that anyone could be on, and that I had to learn how to dispense it properly and how to dispose of it properly too. If at any point Rick reacted any differently, I was not to call the doctor. I was to take him straight to the ER because they made it clear to me that we could lose him in minutes. The responsibility of having his life on my hands was nerve-wracking, but I couldn't let that get to me because it was also my responsibility to have my game face on for the family. The family counselor that we were advised to get by Memorial Sloan from the very beginning had said to me that our daughter Ashley, who was 12 at the time, still needed to go to her cheerleading practices, and our son Ryan, who was 16 then, still needed to go to his swim meets. We needed to keep the family activities as close to normal as possible, and on top of this, I needed to perform my managing job at work as best as I could because I needed my job. I couldn't afford to lose it because that's where our benefits were. So I needed to do all this, and then I needed to make sure that I told Rick everything was just fine. I couldn't cry if I wanted to at home because somebody always needed me for something at home. I didn't have the nerve to cry because amidst all that was going on, Rick had the most positive attitude. He was the one that could keep reminding me that everything was going to be okay. He kept saying things were going to go back to normal. There were days when I would take a 15-minute break. I would drive to the local Acme by us, and I would find the furthest parking spot. And then I would take a 15-minute break and just cry. And I would just cry my fears away, and I'd cry my madness and sadness away. And then I would pray, and then gather myself, and then go back to the house, and then prepare dinner, and make sure that I gave Rick his medication. So for caregivers, it's okay to cry, because you know what, it's okay to just let it all out, and then gather yourself, and then come back and go, okay kids, you know, let's just go back to cheerleading and prepare dinner. But you know, this went on, but eventually, things started to go back to normal. Before that could happen though, Rick had to be detoxed from his pain medication. And this was so new to me, because for anyone who knows what it's like to detox somebody who was a drug addict, this was exactly what we had to go through, and it was so scary. Because he would shake, he would have all the withdrawal symptoms of a drug addict, and I didn't know what to do. And so I would be on the phone all the time with the doctors. But eventually we got through that, and he got better, and we started to get back to normal, and within a year, things were back to normal. And then it happened again. Shortly after the whole family celebrated our 1-year anniversary of Rick being cancer-free, he started to get headaches. And within a week and a half, that quickly, it got so bad that I had to bring him to the emergency room. Because I was sensitive to his health, but I thought that he was actually getting a stroke. It was beyond surreal when the doctors came to me and said that he had brain cancer. Unrelated to his tonsil cancer, another primary cancer. They couldn't explain why or how, but Rick needed surgery right away. So in 3 days, Rick was undergoing brain surgery in Memorial Sloan, and again, Annette, the caregiver, was back. This time, much more help was needed. Rick was going to need 6 weeks of chemo and radiation to his brain, 5 days a week in New York City. Now, we live in Mercer County here, and driving back and forth to New York was not an option, because they said he would be so weak from the chemo and radiation to the brain. So we desperately looked for a place to stay, but we knew we couldn't afford 6 weeks of hotel staying in New York City, not with all our medical bills. But like a gift from God, our doctor talked to us about American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge in New York City. It was a place to stay while he got treatment. So we applied, and after many calls and lots of prayers, we got a call back that we were approved. We found a place to stay for our 2 kids. We packed our bags, and then we headed to New York City. American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge provided a beautiful place to stay, with transportation to and from the hospital at no cost, knowing that the cancer journey would be daunting. They were very compassionate. They had programs and activities to make patients and caregivers feel at home, away from home. This is where we learned about Relay for Life. We saw how the program got people together who were fighting the same cause that we had. We were so excited to learn about people who were just like us, sharing our journey and understanding the feelings that we thought only we were going through. Volunteers were so kind and caring. Volunteers like you, all of you here who take your own personal time to let patients like Rick and caregivers like me feel like we're not alone. We can't thank you enough. We really need more people like all of you. The second best part about this presentation is that I'm almost done. But the best part is that Rick is a living miracle. He was diagnosed with level 4 brain cancer, also known as glioblastoma. He is currently going through Memorial Sloan's clinical trial for immunotherapy that you hear about on 60 Minutes or some of these shows. And I'm happy to say that he is 22 months cancer-free. This is the part my daughter says, "Mom, you better not cry," because you always cry when you say this. It's because of people like you, sorry Ashley, who continue to support causes like this, that Rick wakes up every day, and I'm not kidding, he wakes up every day
with a smile on his face, and he looks at me and he says, "Hon, I'm going to the gym."